to do so. Right. So our next speaker, his level of energy, enthusiasm are already putting many of us millennials to shame. This 72-year-old licensed pilot and experienced photographer at Photosafaris can't seem to stop moving. A significant part of his retirement years was spent behind the wheel of a 4x4. To quote Yusuf Hashim, "We become better people when we see that everyone in the world is essentially the same. Travel broadens our minds, ridding it of bigotry and prejudice. We'll always return enriched, expanded, and forever changed by the experience." With that, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome Yusuf Hashim.
Hello, everyone. Let's see whether this thing works. My name is Yusuf Hashim. I'm a little bit intimidated being in front of so many distinguished people, but age gives me an advantage. I think I'm older than most of you here. Okay. I would like to talk to you about retirement. I'm 73 years old. I've got 15 grandkids, retired but not expired. And I'd like to give you, since the theme of this conference is about reimagining tomorrow for a better tomorrow for all of us, I'd like to give you a personal perspective of retirement. I've been retired for the last 20 years. And I see it. All the pictures I'm going to show you are pictures I shot myself. Yeah? In a previous life, I used to work for an oil multinational. I was, in fact, the retail marketing director of Shell companies in Malaysia. And prior to that, I was the managing director of Shell Chemicals in Malaysia. And before that, I was working in the UK as a global trader for Styrenics. So from the corporate world and transitioning into nothingness, as what people think retirement is, can be quite traumatic for some, unless you're prepared for it, okay? So I retired in 1999 at the tender young age of 53. In those days, the retirement age, the mandatory retirement age, was 55. So I retired 2 years early. And the reason I retired was in the late 90s, we had a financial crisis, or rather the world had a financial crisis, and it was fashionable to restructure, to right size, to downsize. And this option came along that I could not refuse, you know. They dangled a big pile of money in front of me and said, would you like to retire? I looked at the sums and I looked at my situation. My daughter at 53 had just graduated, my last daughter. I had quite a good investment portfolio for my retirement. So I said, why not? And the thing that really turned the tide was 1999 was a tax-free year. The government of Malaysia in that year changed the tax system from paying in arrears to paying in advance. So theoretically, whatever you get in 1999 was tax-free. So I was given more money than I would have earned if I had stayed on to work till real retirement. So it was a no-brainer. So I retired. I see one or two of my old Shell colleagues are here, still working at the age, I'm sure, 70. I have a message for them. And the message will come. Okay? I would like to say that the last 20 years of my life has been the best part of my life. And for you guys who are still working at 70, I have a message, and it will shock you. There has been a study done in the past that there is an inverse relationship between the age that you retire and the time that you die. Okay? Those who retire early, and this is a scientific actuarial study, will die later. Actually, Boeing did the study. You know, they found that people who retired at 55 will live till 85. People who retire at today's mandatory retirement age of 65 will die at 68, on average. Yeah? Okay. So the point I'm making is retire early, live longer, and prepare yourself for your retirement. When you're working, that part of your life is actually a preparation for your retirement. Yeah? Don't make work the purpose of your life. Work is the means to an end. Okay? Retirement is the objective of life. Okay. So, this is the Galasha Straits. The picture before that was shot in Scotby Sound in Greenland. Okay? Some of the things I did after I retired. All these pictures are shot by me personally. So, the theme of our conference is to reconceptualize our tomorrow. So what I'm trying to do is to try and persuade you to reimagine retirement. Yeah? Don't treat it as a period of life where you're waiting to die, but treat it as the beginning of a new phase of life, which can be the best phase of your life. Okay? And we're trying to find better ways to prepare for the future. So, let me start with trying to dispel all these cliches of retirement. Okay? Many people say retirement is a time for winding down. Many people become born-again Christians or born-again Muslims. They start to make preparations for their appointment with God. And many people get a part-time job for virtually peanuts, you know. Why? Because they don't know what to do with their retirement. Okay? I almost got a job after I retired, but then they decided to pay me 3/4 of what I had earned when I was in Shell. And then I looked at the small print of the stock options that my company offered to me, that if I were to work for an opposition oil company, my stock options would be null and void. So that settled it. No more jobs. Okay? It helped me to actually get on to do what I wanted to do. Many other retirees actually read the newspapers, cover to cover, including the advertisements and the obituaries, trying to look for news of their friends. Yeah. In actual fact, 2 days ago I was in the Serengeti. I rushed back here for this talk, actually. I was in Serengeti for almost a month, shooting pictures of wild animals. Many retirees, grandfathers, grandmothers, become babysitters for their grandkids and school bus drivers. Their most strenuous exercises are a walk in the garden, you know, and maybe half a round or 9 holes of golf every Wednesdays. Their mindset goes into what I call waiting to die mode. Yeah? Retirement shouldn't be like that. These are not for me. I had very clear ideas when I retired of what I actually wanted to do. I actually wanted to travel, you know. I wanted to drive across all the continents of the world. I wanted to sail to Antarctica. I wanted to sail to the Arctic. I wanted to climb mountains. I wanted to climb volcanoes. Actually, I had a latent desire to become a photographer. Yeah? I wanted to write, and I wanted to qualify to fly a paramotor. I already have a pilot's license, so I want to fly one of those things, you know. So, honest to goodness, I managed to do all that. As of today, I've visited 130 countries over the last 20 years. And I'm going to show you some of the pictures that I shot while I was traveling. I chartered a small sailing boat for about 8 people, wooden sailing boat, and on this, we sailed to Greenland and trekked in Greenland. Yeah? This was a picture from the mast deck of the ship, and that's the ship that we took. Not very expensive. Each of us had to cough out about $12,000 US, you know, for about a month, you know. And we spent about a month sailing from Iceland to Greenland, and I shot hundreds of pictures, thousands in fact. So I think it's all worth it. So now, the gist of what I'm trying to say today would be to try and persuade you that you should set a balance, reset the balance between the work phase of life and the retirement phase of life. Because work is actually a means to an end. The end must be a happy retirement where you get to spend your money. Yeah? In the work phase of life, you earn money, but many people keep on earning money and they forget how to spend money. Yeah? I mean, the richest person in the world, Bill Gates, he's got $40 billion. That's not his money, because if you don't spend your money, it's not your money. So why the hell do you want to earn so much money for? So the dilemma that you face when you're working is, when is enough money enough for you to retire? And when you're retired, your dilemma is, how long am I going to live and how long will my money last? Okay? Don't worry. If your money finishes, you can always sell your house. And if that goes, you just move into your kid's house. Yeah. Isn't it? So don't be afraid about spending your money. Yeah? Don't work till you're dead. I mean, Tan Sri Samsudin is my classmate. He's 73 like me. I don't know where he's around here. But he's still working every morning. My God, I mean, sorry, Sam. My message to you is that you must retire early while your body is still without health problems. 3 days ago, my neighbor, Dato' Mazir Lokman, only 61 years old, passed away suddenly, heart attack. Yeah? I'm 73, I'm still kicking. I hope I can live to about 85, although the lifespan of a Malaysian male is only 76 years. So I have a theory that life is a series of phases. That if you assume that the average lifespan of a Malaysian male is 76, okay, that is the line of your life, 0 to 76, and the average lifespan is 76. Average, mind you, because some people die off at 60, which means I get 5 years extra to be 80, average, okay? So you get born and you die, okay? That's your life. So you spend 30% of your life, 23 years divided by 76 is 30%, to get an education, okay? Then you graduate, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you get a mortgage, you have more kids, and then if, like me, I had a first child at 24, it takes 23 years to put him through college. By 47, 23 plus 24 is 47, my first child graduated. I had my last child, a girl, at age 30, which means plus 23, at 53. My fourth child graduated. That was the signal that my responsibility as a parent is finished. You have to be a bit smart, because when you're working, the work phase of your life is for you to earn enough money to pay all your responsibilities for life, you know, your mortgage, your car, your house, your whatever expenses. And I think for us, most of us today, education of your child is among the most expensive, yeah? So by 53, all my kids have been fully educated, and I have been slightly clever in building a small investment and savings portfolio, because during the work phase of your life, the rule is to postpone consumption. You need to save. If you persist in spending more money than you earn during your work phase of life, that's when you go into debts. That's why the credit card is very bad. Huh? You go into debt, and when you come time for you to retire, you just don't have enough money to retire. Yeah? So I was a bit smart, and I managed to build a reasonably robust investment and savings portfolio. 20 years on, today, what I had when I retired is still the same. It's only gone down by inflation, but in terms of amount and assets, it's still the same. So don't worry about it. You know, somehow you'll get over it. So at 53, when this offer came along to retire, I took the offer, which means if my age is 76, when you're supposed to die, The work phase of my life takes only 30 years, which is 40%, therefore leaving me 30% for me to retire. Okay? Make no mistake, when you first retire, the first day that you retire, it can be quite traumatic. Many people have depression because when you are the managing director or you are very high up the scale, you tend to depend on a lot of support system around you. The day after you retire, suddenly all this is gone. You have to write your own checks. You have to go and do your own banking. You have to make your own coffee. All this is quite traumatic. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that life is a series of phases. The point that you should always try to make is that the last part of your life should be the largest proportion of your life, okay? Don't make the work phase of your life to be 50% of your life. If you retire at 65, for example, yeah, you work for 55% of your life. And if you die at 76, that leaves you only 11 years to spend your money, okay? And what happens if you have a stroke at 70, yeah? And you become incapacitated, yeah? Or you're tied, like a couple of my friends, to a dialysis machine. What's the point of having millions in the bank? You can't do anything with it. So, point number one, retirement is very important. Focus your attention on retirement. Build up a reasonable investment savings portfolio to see you through retirement. And then, when the time comes for retire. If you can retire earlier, and then enjoy yourself. I'm going to show you a few pictures and talk to you about some of the outrageous things I've done over the last 20 years. Okay? I just came back from Africa 2 days ago, rushed back here. But anyway, if you now retire at 65, as I said just now, you have 11 years for retirement. Forget about the stroke. I mentioned just now that there is an inverse relationship between the age at which you retire and the years that you will live. This is an actual study done by Boeing, and I think some of my Shell colleagues here would confirm that Shell even did the same study. They wanted to assure themselves how much should they set aside for the pension fund to pay the checks to the people who live after retirement. Now, surprise, surprise, look at this. If you retire at 50, you will die at 85. But if you retire at 65, in 3 years, on average, you will die. Okay? So why do you want to work so hard? Why do you want to retire so late? Yeah? Why do you want to keep so much money? Why do you want to acquire so much wealth? If you spend $1,000 a day, in 1 year, you will spend only $365,000, which means 1 million will take you through 3 years. But who spends $1,000 a day? Not me. If you spend $500 a day, 1 million will take you to 6 years. So if you have 3 billion, you can live 18 years by spending $500 a day. So why do you need several millions for? Okay? That's the point. So remember, there is an inverse relationship between the age you retire and the time that you die. The later you retire, the quicker you will die. Okay? It's a study. It's an official actuarial study done by Boeing. Yeah? Okay. So the two messages from 73-year-old me is, plan to retire early, to enjoy life. So much to see and to do when you travel outside. And when you retire, don't just think about going for walks in the park with grandma. Don't think just about playing more golf, this sort of thing. There's so much out there that you need to go and see. And the other point about that phase of life diagram that I put, that work can sometimes take about 55% of the phase of your life, If you're not happy at work, for goodness sakes, get out. Go and find another job. Don't hang on in there. Okay? If your boss is a jerk, get out, Because 55% of your life, if you stay, you have to put up with this jerk. Okay? So, finally, what age should you retire? The age that you retire depends basically, I mean, for wage earners, it's very easy. When you reach 60 or 65, the company says, you go. But if you're a businessman, the danger is that, or you're a professional, the danger is that you'll never retire. Many of my doctor friends, my architect friends, my lawyer friends, and my businessman friends, tomorrow they're dead. Today they're still working. Why? Because they just don't have the impetus to retire. Somebody must make them stop working. And when they die, all their millions goes to their wives. I remember the case of this Chinese billionaire, his driver was driving him around, he died, and all his billions went to his wife. The wife took his driver as her lover, and so he said to the world, somebody was interviewing him, says, when I was driving my boss around, I wasn't working for him. My boss was working for me. So, all the world's most wealthy people these days are women, widows of rich, silly men who didn't spend their money. So make up your minds when you want to retire. Because when you're working, the most difficult decision is to make the decision when to retire. Because when is enough money enough? Okay, like I said just now, spend $1,000 a day and try to estimate how long you live and multiply by the number of days that you're going to live. That's how long you will live. That's how much money you need. But nobody spends $1,000 a day, okay? And then when you are retired, the dilemma you face is, how long will my money last? But my answer to that is very easy. Spend all your money. When it's finished, sell your house. When it's finished, sell your assets. When it's finished, move into your kid's house. My 4 kids, all of them are fighting with themselves to make me and my wife come and stay with them. Okay, I don't know how sincere they are, but I think they are. We will give them a chance to change my incontinence nappies for a change. Payback. So here you see the three ages at which you retire. I retired at 53, the topmost bar, and I have 23 years of retirement, enjoying life. 20 years is gone, so theoretically I should have another 3 more years to live. But all my brothers, all my sisters, my mother and my father lived well beyond 85. So I expect to live till 85. If I go tomorrow, that's fine. And if you retire at 60, you have only 20% of life for retirement. And worse, Sam, who's still working at 73, he will have less than 5% of life left. Assuming the average statistics are true, okay? Right. So what did I do upon retirement? I mean, I think I did a lot of things. I wanted to become a photographer. I had this latent desire to write and so on. And I'm glad to say that when I retired, I managed to do all this. Quickly, just to show you some of the things that I did. In 2001, I drove from KL to India. What happened was one weekend we were having roti canai, So a group of my friends says, why don't we go and drive to India? So yeah, why shouldn't we? So the following week, we drove to India. It took us a whole month to do it. We went up to Thailand, Laos, China, came down to Tibet, went over the Himalayas, Nepal, went to Delhi, Mumbai, and then Chennai, shipped the car back. 1 whole month, 30 days. That was the start of my driving adventures. I joined this group of wealthy, crazy people whose ambition in life was to drive around the world. So I offered to become one of their spare drivers, so I get to travel with them for free. And then I offered to become their official photographer. I had some skills in photography, and they liked it so much, and they asked me to join them for 10 years after that. So I traveled around the world. I drove around across 130 countries. I've driven across all the continents in the world, and I did it for virtually free. Yeah, so you have to find that sort of, a mother lode, and you'll be okay. So anyway, in 2002, I joined the Petronas Adventure Team, and we shipped our cars to Khartoum, and we drove across Egypt, across Sudan, across the Sahara, across Libya, across Algeria, across Tunisia, into Casablanca, and we sent the car back to Malaysia from Casablanca. That was a lot of fun. So in 2004, we sent the car to Istanbul, and we drove along the old Silk Road, across Turkey, across Iran, across Pakistan. And that time, 9/11 hadn't happened yet, so I went into the Khyber Pass and drove straight into Afghanistan, came down again, up the Karakoram Highway, into China, sitting in front of the TV, watching the news, and boom, 9/11 came. So they closed the border. That was 2 weeks after I went into Afghanistan. And then from Kashgar, we drove back home to China and Bangkok and so on. Then in 2005, we shipped our cars to London, and we drove back to Malaysia. Took us about 65 days. And this was the northern route through Germany, Belarus, Poland, Russia, Kazakhstan, China, and came down again. It was so much fun that after that, we sent our cars to Buenos Aires. We drove around South America for about 4 months. Okay? Then we sent our cars again to London. This time we drove back to Malaysia through a southern route, through France, to Italy, into the Siplon Pass, across the Adriatic, into Greece, into Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, cross into India, into Nepal, over the Himalayas, come back to Malaysia. So it's become an afternoon drive, so. And in 2010, sent our cars to Cape Town, and we drove to Cairo. Also about 4 months, 3 months, yeah. What else? Yes. Sent the car to Walvis Bay, drove from Namibia to Kenya, came back, and then in 2013, when I was about, 2013 minus 73 is about 5 years ago, when I was about 68, I trekked the Himalayas to the Annapurna Base Camp. It was a lot of fun, so I went to Everest Base Camp. And then in 2013, at the age of 68, I qualified as a paramotor pilot, the oldest paramotor pilot in Malaysia. And then in 2014, we decided to go to the Everest Base Camp, so we went. And then in 2015, after having gone through all the continents in the world, I chartered a ship, sailed to Greenland, and we went trekking in Greenland. And then we chartered another ship. I brought my wife along. We sailed to Svalbard, and on to the North Pole. We were stopped by pack ice because by about 700 kilometers from the North Pole, we had to stop. But we celebrated our golden wedding anniversary, 50 years of marriage to my wife, on a piece of floating ice. Yeah. So some of the things that you do in retirement. Anyway, my friends were taking pictures of me, and then somebody shouted, "Polar bear!" So run up back to the ship. In 2016, I climbed 4 volcanoes over 3 weeks. I climbed Mount Bromo, and then Mount Ijen in Java, and I flew to Ethiopia, the Danakil Depression, and climbed Mount El Ta'ale, which is Africa's most active volcano. And I camped on the rim, and I took some pictures. I'll show you the pictures. After the Arctic is done, last frontier, Antarctica. I've been to Antarctica 3 times now. Last I was there was in 2017, and we went to Patagonia as well, and then when we came back, we went to Mount Fitzroy and went to the base camp there. After that, we sailed to the Falklands, trekked there, and in 2018, we trekked in Patagonia, and 3 days ago, I just came back from the Serengeti. I have a program to go to Ethiopia in October, and in 2019, I have already got about 40 of my friends who will join me in a cruise, an expedition to Antarctica. Vistage, if anybody knows who Vistage is, have asked me to charter a ship for about 20 people, and we will sail again to Svalbard and the North Pole. So, In my brief 20 years of retirement, I've done a little bit of, of traveling here and there. Let me just share with you some of the pictures that I've shot. This is the route that I've driven in Africa. You'll notice that except for the west side of Africa, which is a bit dangerous, virtually all of the east coast of Africa, North Africa, we've covered. Yeah. This is a Mursi man, a woman from the Omo Valley. That plate in her lips is considered to be a beautiful decoration. Yeah. The bigger the plate, the higher her, excuse me, the higher her bridal price. Okay. This is a 12-year-old Mursi boy. That's a real AK-47. They use these rifles to protect their cow herds, because many of these tribes raid each other's village to steal their cows. Yeah? They live on their cows, They drink the blood of the cows. They drink the blood of the milk of their cows. They don't kill them for meat. Yeah? That's another, sorry. That's a Hummer lady crossing the equator at Kenya. That's the car that I use. It's a Land Cruiser. This was shot last week. Also last week. Lions doing what they do best. Elephants. This is the Dalol volcano in the Danakil Depression. Ethiopia is actually the place where, where the first human being started. The yellow thing is sulfur, and the liquid is concentrated sulfuric acid. Next to the Dalol volcano is the, this is a cattle camp in Suri. As I said, the cattle is very important to them. They regard the cow as a very clean animal. Their houses, the poo of the cow is used as a plaster to seal the straw house from draft. And this is a technique which is actually originated by many Africans in order to induce a cow to produce more milk. Because when the cow has a calf, it will tend to restrict the flow of milk. So it seems if you put your face into the cow's vagina and you blow, and at the same time you caress the udder of the cow, the flow of milk actually increases. No, it's true. And I checked this fact. Apparently in Australia, many of the dairy farms also do this, but not the Australian women doing it. They use compressed air, okay? No, it's true. So you see, when you travel, you learn a lot of things. Yeah? Travel broadens the mind. Travel lets you see and lets you realize that although the color of your skin is different, the language you speak is different, the gods that you worship is different, you and the people who don't look like you actually have the same emotions, the same wants, the same needs. Yeah? They want love, they want food, they want happiness, yeah? They want health, and they want a good education for the children. So travel more, and probably more people understand that, that between you and the next person, there is no difference. And when you travel, you will find that it is you that is the strange one that comes into their place. When people are doing this in a certain place, and you say it's strange, it is you that is strange, because you don't know how to do this, is it? And to them, the cow is so clean They actually use ash and cow poo, and they wipe their face, and they, they decorate their face. So a different perspective entirely, all from traveling. Yeah. This is the most active volcano in Africa, Mount Erta-Ale. If anybody wants to join me, in October I'm going down there. BBC did a video of this place, and they called it the most cruel place on earth. Daytime temperatures there is about 57, and nighttime is 47. Sorry. Sorry. So as I said, if you want to join me in October, I'm going to climb up Erta-Ale again. There's nothing more beautiful than this. And the first thought that came to mind when I saw this bubbling cauldron of molten rock, what a perfect place to throw in corrupted politicians. Oh, sorry. Sorry, that wasn't meant to be there. But I just want to illustrate that, when you go there, people walk around stark naked, and nothing strange about it. I came there full clothes and, with a hat and all that, and they look at me. I must be very strange because it was so hot, and they're walking around starkers, So anyway, this is a picture from the Namibia, where I crossed the Tropic of Capricorn. Incidentally, I've crossed the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn, and the equator in no less than 23 countries. So it's a kind of a bucket list. I want to cross all these three latitudes in as many countries as I can. So I think there's another 4 more that I need to do. There's some, islands which are completely out of reach that you can't reach, unless you sail there specifically for it. This was the Sahara Desert in Libya at dusk. The Kalahari Desert has some of the highest sand dunes in the world, as high as about 400 meters. And you get such a huge adrenaline rush by driving down the dunes and going up and crossing this desert. But sometimes you need to do it because in the Sahara Desert, for example, there's no road. Sometimes you need to just drive like that. This is the Makgadikgadi Pen in Botswana. We carry our own hotel room with us. Our cars are equipped with inverters. We've got all the supplies we need. The tanks have been added so that we can go about 2,000 kilometers without refueling. Temple of Komombo in Egypt. In 2006, we sent our cars to Buenos Aires, drove right around South America, and came back. Took us 4 months. So all this, sorry. All this traveling around, leaving the house for 4 months, 3 months, 6 months, there are 6 or 7 factors that you must have before you can do this, First of all, of course, you must have the health. If your knees can't support your walking, or you need to be tied to a dialysis machine every 2 days, or if you have a spouse who says, don't go, and you listen to her and you don't go. So these are all the factors that you need to have before you can go. If you want to go and do these kind of things, first of all, you must have a bit of money, you must have health, and if you have a spouse that says don't go, you must have the determination to tell her, I'm going anyway. You must have health, and you must have a bit of money, Those are some of the 6 or 7 factors that you must have if you want to do this kind of things. In retirement, you need to get it into your head that, this is a time in life where you need to do things for yourself. In the work phase of life, you are the provider for your family. You work your butt out to make sure that they're well provided for. So during your retirement stage of life, you must believe that you deserve to get away from the house for 3 months if you want to. Okay? Many people in their retirement, they got a lot of money, they get a young wife. I think that's wrong. Okay? It's so difficult to manage with one. You have another one, you are out of your mind. Anyway, once we finished art, this is Patagonia. Actually, is one of the most beautiful places in the world. I think if you want to go and visit beautiful places in the world, there are 5 that you must actually go before you die. One of them is Patagonia. Patagonia is that part of South America, the southern part, comprising Chile and Argentina. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. Go and trek there. Go and camp there. Go and walk to the base camp of Mount Fitzroy, and you will see such loveliness, I mean, you cannot believe that the world is so beautiful. Go in autumn, when all the leaves are all red and gold and brown. I tell you, it's out of this world. Just a sample of what it looks like, This is El Chaltén in Patagonia. Here's another picture of the Milky Way over Patagonia. I'm sorry, the colors look a bit saturated. I tried to correct it over there. They said they purposely set the colors here to be oversaturated. I think it makes my picture look awful, actually. This is the Torres del Paine in Patagonia. See how beautiful it is? Yeah? Those 3 granite peaks in Patagonia. Some of you, I'm sure, must have gone there. This is the Salar de Uyuni. The equivalent is the salt flats in Utah. There are three kind of places like this, which are the beds of an ancient lake. One is the Mak-Gadik-Gadik Pan, where I showed you we were camping. And another one is the Salar de Uyuni, and the third one is the Utah salt flats in US. Okay? So one of your bucket lists, you must go and see these 3 places. Ruta 40 in Argentina is 6,000 kilometers of dirt track, the longest and the most lonely road in the world, over 1,200 kilometers. We were driving there. We didn't see any other car except 3 cars, and 2 of them were cars that had broken down. So we stopped and offered some help. But it's a beautiful place. The rainbow over there is out of this world. The stars, you can see the Milky Way. No other sound, no other people. So these are some of the routes that I've traveled over China, over Russia, over India, over Middle East, over Europe, over Spain, and so on. So I used to drive. I used to ride motorbikes, and I've ridden my bike from Aceh to Jakarta, to Bali, to Makassar to Manado. And of course, when I was still working in Shell, we used to go and drive from KL for lunch in Hat Yai, and then go on to Bangkok, and then Vietnam and Cambodia and all that, 2 or 3 days, And then we have the base camp, Everest Base Camp, another most beautiful place in the world, and a place that you must have in your bucket list to visit. It's quite easy to walk in to the base camp. You just have to have the determination to do that. The porters are quite cheap. You pay them about $25 a day, and they carry everything for you. So I wanted to take pictures, so they carried everything for me. So when I wanted to take a picture, I asked them, camera, so take the camera, take a picture. Water, water, towel. They're very loyal, and of course, they asked for $25 a day, and at the end of the trip, I was so happy I gave them a couple of hundred extra, because they're really very, very loyal, and they will help you. And you have to go to the base camp of Everest. Yeah, it's extremely beautiful, and it's an experience, and it's a challenge for yourself. You can do it, and you can do it, and you do it at your own pace. Don't try to race with anybody. Get a porter who is your own personal porter, and let him walk with you. He becomes your guide. And then the other one is the Annapurna Base Camp, which is also quite good. But as I said, after doing all the land areas, I decided to sail, and I chartered this little boat, and we went to Iceland, and from Iceland we sailed to Greenland, and then the other time I chartered a ship from Svalbard. We sailed towards the North Pole, and next year in August, 21 chief executives from Vistage will join me. We've already chartered a small boat, sailing boat, and we will make another attempt to go towards the North Pole. Now, what do you want to do in the North Pole? The Arctic is actually beautiful because of the wildlife there. I go there especially to go and shoot pictures of polar bears. You know? So this is a Barkentine sailing ship that we chartered. It's very cheap, actually. Per person, maybe about 9,000, 10,000 US. You have it for about 3 weeks, and everything is done on board. And every day we will stop where we see land, and then we go down and we track, take pictures, come back, and then we look for polar bears. And that's me and my dearest celebrating our golden wedding anniversary on a piece of floating ice, 600 kilometers in the Arctic Ocean, away from the North Pole. Yeah? That's what I go looking for, shooting pictures of polar bears. We learned a lot of things because one of the guys that came with us was the Russian deputy director of the Polar Bear Research Institute of Russia. We learned from him that today in the world there are only 22,000 polar bears left. Yeah? And every country in the world has banned the killing of polar bears. But there are 2 countries in the world where polar bears are still being killed at the rate of 750 polar bears a year. And these 2 countries are the US and Canada. At the rate of depletion, my good friend, the deputy director of the Russian Institute for Polar Bear Research, says that by the year 2025, polar bear will be nearly extinct. So ever since having them on the trip with us, I've been a very vocal supporter of the campaign to stop the killing of polar bears. And the Americans and the Canadians are the only ones who are still killing. Even the Russians stopped killing polar bears in 1957, as far back as that. Yeah, but the Americans will not. This is a polar bear that frightened us off the ice pack because it saw a seal on the other ice pack and it was stalking the thing. You know, when we rushed back up to the ship, we watched him hunt the seal, and then he ate the fellow alive. You know? Seals are the food of this polar bear, the favorite food. And that's a walrus. Those tusks are about almost a meter long. When I take people on this photo safaris, I call it, I teach them photography for free. I don't do anything for money. Yeah. So, for example, if I take 21 people to the Arctic, you might ask, how can I afford all this luxurious or very expensive tours all over the place? But the trick is very simple. I organize a tour for 20 people, and I get one place free from the ship owners. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't get any money, and I teach them photography. I show them that if you want to shoot pictures of walruses, for example, you must change your perspective. For example, people shoot babies by standing up and shooting the baby down, you know. All the pictures you see of babies are so boring because that's how you see babies. Try to get to the same level of the baby. So, for example, the picture of this walrus, you get down low and you make the tusk appear to be bigger than normal. They are big, but seen from the normal perspective, they don't look impressive at all. So those are some of the photography tips that I pass to people who come with me to my photo safaris. Yeah? That's the Antigua, the ship that we chartered. Every day we will anchor the ship off a piece of land, and then we'll use those Zodiacs, go ashore, go trekking, take pictures, you know. And one of the most beautiful places in the world after Antarctica is actually the Arctic. You know, I never get tired of looking at icebergs. There is no 2 icebergs which are the same. You know? And if you imagine, icebergs are the parts of the ice that comes down a glacier, and they were born as long as 30,000 years ago, and that's how long they take to flow down to the face of the glacier and then carve off as an iceberg. So you're looking at a 30-year-old piece of ice, you know, and if you remember your science teacher telling you that only 20% of the iceberg is above water. There's 80% more down there, you know. That's how huge they are. So it never ceases to marvel me, you know. That's the Macrobrian glacier, the face of the glacier in an island called Spitsbergen to the north of Norway. Our ship is anchored out there. That ship, the Antigua, can take about 32 or 33 people. You know. We can easily hire it, charter it for 3 weeks. It's very, very, very affordable. And look at what you are presented by going there, you know. The face of the iceberg is so majestic, you know. I mean, you guys are still working, whatever for? Yeah? In your retirement, you take a job that pays you 1/10 of what you used to earn, and just to kill time, you know, just to do something. I mean, there's so many things out there that you can do, you know. So the theme of my talk is start reimagining retirement. Look at retirement as the objective of life. The work phase is for you to earn enough money so that you can retire early and then see and do all these things, okay? You don't know what you're missing, so I'm trying to make you realize what you can miss. These are diamonds on the black sands beach of Iceland. They are blocks of ice. They look like diamonds, actually. This is the Aurora Borealis over the Buddhist church in Iceland. You can go there sometime in winter when the sky is dark enough, then you can see them. But if you go in summer, they're there, but you can't see them because there's too much light. Yeah? This is the Aurora Borealis shot in Greenland from the mast deck of the boat that I was in. Another picture of the Aurora Borealis. Iceland, of course, is famous for its waterfalls. And the beauty of the waterfall is to see them when they're frozen. So go in winter. Yeah, it's beautiful. Because besides the aurora, you can get to see a frozen waterfall, and it's nothing like what you are used to. Yeah? This is the kind of vehicle that we use to cross ice caps. We hired this to cross the Vatnajökull ice cap in Iceland. It is the largest permanent ice cap anywhere in Europe. So, earlier this year, we chartered the ship and we went to Antarctica and look at the number of places that we stopped. Every day we will stop at a different place, look at colonies of penguins, take pictures of different species of penguins, and walked inland maybe 3, 4, 5 kilometers if you like, you know, or some just prefer to stay by the shore. That's fine. I'll be going again end of this year. The Drake's Passage. It should be a bucket list of everybody to try and cross the Drake Passage. It is called the Drake Passage after Sir Francis Drake, who actually was one of the earliest explorers who went to that area. Apparently, Sir Francis Drake also got sick when crossing the Drake Passage. It is one of the most violent seas in the world, you know, because the Antarctic current flows in a westerly direction unimpeded. So at the point where the southernmost point of South America and the Antarctica Peninsula comes up, it constricts. And when you cross that, you're tossed by 30 to 40 meter waves. Those days it was terrible, but these days, the ships have stabilization systems that enables them to actually cut right through the waves. So it's not as bad as it was during Sir Francis Drake's time. So come to Antarctica. Okay? That's the other attraction of Antarctica. You can get as close as 10 meters to a whale. What they do is that about 7 or 8 of them will go underwater and they will blow their bubbles and herd all this krill. Krill is these little tiny prawns, red in color, and they make them into a ball, and then one by one they will open their mouth, they'll come from the bottom, and they will open their mouth and swallow the thing. And this is happening 10 meters away from you. Don't you think that's beautiful? And you guys are still working. My God, something's wrong with you. Okay. Penguins. Who says penguins can't fly? You know? They are the fastest creatures underwater. Actually. They actually fly underwater. And occasionally, every about 30 seconds or so, they break out of the water and they jump like that, and they go back, they breathe, and they go back down. So they hunt fish. And penguins have no enemies because there are no polar bears in the southern hemisphere, just as there are no penguins in the northern hemisphere. So you can go and walk right into the middle of a penguin colony, and you can stand in the middle of 100,000 of them, and they will not run, you know. And you can get pictures, beautiful pictures like this, you know, where the mother penguin is feeding the baby. You know, penguin mothers go out for as long as 3 months to go and catch fish. And when they come back, their baby is waiting there, you know. So they know which one is their own baby. They make a special sound, and these little penguins will come rushing up to them, and they feed them, and then the father will go. They take turns, you know, the mother, the father. So the biggest penguins are the king penguins, and they were decimated during the time when whaling was allowed. They killed almost 300,000 whales in Antarctica. You can go and see the skeletons of the whaling station. It's so sad, you know. You get a very sad feeling when you see these tanks, just like the tanks that you store fuel oil and petrol and so on in our refineries. They use them to store whale oil. You know, 300,000 whales being killed just for oil, for fuel, for oil. It's terrible. And then if you go into the place where they have these whaling stations, the bottom of the sea has got about 10, 15 meters thick of whale bones. They just kill the whales, take the oil, throw the bones, you know. So when the whale catch went down, they started killing king penguins. It took 18 king penguins to produce the equivalent barrel of oil produced by whales. So when king penguins were decimated, they started killing all the Adelie penguins and all that. 26 or 27 Adelie penguins, which are smaller, to make a barrel of oil. So human beings are the most destructive of all animals on Earth. Yeah. So right now, all the penguin colonies are all still are recovering thanks to the Antarctica Treaty, which now forbids any killing of any wildlife in Antarctica. They're beautiful creatures. You need to see them for yourself. And icebergs. I'm in love with icebergs. In Antarctica, the icebergs are huge, you know. When I was there about 8-9 months ago, this huge chunk from the Ross Shelf broke away. It was about almost 280 kilometers long and about 50, 60 kilometers wide. It just broke away. You know, it was floating on the ice shelf. It broke away and became the world's biggest known iceberg in modern times. Right now, it's drifting away from Antarctica mainland and is breaking up. Okay. This is the Perito Moreno Glacier in Patagonia. You can go and visit this. One of the most beautiful glaciers in the world. Well, I believe I can fly, and I did. I qualified as a paramotor pilot at 68. You just strap this machine behind you. It weighs about 32 kilos. And then you run and you learn how to control this thing, and you put on the power and you take off. I tell you, the feeling is fantastic, you know. I felt like I was Icarus, flying on a wing and a prayer towards the setting sun. I mean, what can be more beautiful than that? If you can't carry that thing on your back, because I have a back problem, you can actually use a trike, you know. It's like a bicycle. You know? You put the wing behind you, and then you turn on the motor and you go up. You need to learn. But you need a little bit of courage, because I actually stopped flying about 6-7 months ago when one of my friends died. They were flying in Pulau Indah, and engine failed, and he did something wrong, and he fell into the containers near the Westport. So my wife absolutely forbade me from flying anymore. I do go and fly once in a while without her knowledge. Remember, when you are retired, you want to be able to do what you want to do. Nobody must stop you, okay? Because you work your butt out for the rest of your life. So at least during your retirement, you must have the freedom to do certain things, yeah? What else? My son-in-law was the organizer of the Red Bull Air Race because I have a pilot's license, so he arranged for me to have a trial flight with one of the champion flyers, and I sat in the front and the guy sat in the back. And nothing is more beautiful than having the sky below your feet and Port Klang above your head. Inverted, you know. Very nice. I mean, I really love it. You know? I, believe it or not, became a model for a while. I don't know what they saw in me, but I was featured on the front page of the Grid magazine. I also write for the Grid, travel articles. I do it for free because I just want the name. And then I get featured for my travels in a number of magazines. Recently, Focus did one article for me. A few Singapore magazines also did some articles on me. I've written quite a few books, actually. These days, you can actually... I started by writing computer articles and photography articles for the Chip magazine about 12, 13 years ago, and I stopped now. I've written maybe about 8 or 9 coffee table books. Every time I go to a certain place, I just put pictures together, write a few stories, and then my favorite book is this one, My African Journey, which I wrote for my kids, my grandkids. It was printed online, printed on demand, leather cover. I do small books like this, about the Sahara, about Iceland, I call it Niceland, about the Aurora, you know, mostly about pictures, for fun. I mean, I don't sell them, okay? So, retirement has been the best part of my life. My message is, make it the best part of your life as well. Don't work till you're 70. Sam, where are you? Don't work till you're 70. Retire as early as you can while you still have the health, while your knees are still able to carry you, while you don't need to be tied to the dialysis machine. Yeah? So for the last 20 years, it's been the best part of my life. Make it the best part of your life as well. Reimagine retirement. Don't look at it as the beginning of the end. Look at it as the beginning of a new phase of life, a more exciting phase of life. The reason why you're working. And learn to stop working. When is enough enough? Yeah? Only you can decide that. Always remember, your money, if it runs out, you always have your kids. You know, they will never refuse you. Yeah? And if you really need money, I mean, your house, I mean, all of you are professionals, each of your house must be worth at least 2-3 million, you know. If $1,000 a day, 1 million can last you 3 years, you sell the house, rent an apartment, you know, then you have 3 times 3, 9 years of spending left. Yeah, okay, so I finished. I will answer any questions later on when we have the panel discussion. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope, you know, I did okay.
Thank you, Yusuf Hashim, for sharing your incredible journey and your adventures during your retirement, as well as amazing, amazing photos. Again, just ladies and gentlemen, please do not forget to post your questions, and we will visit those questions later on. Just a quick announcement before we move on to our final speaker of the day. We have some coffee outside the ballroom. It's a free flow, so probably want to grab a quick coffee and just come back into the room before we move on to our final speaker of the day.